The USS Lazarus floated in the darkness of deep space like a silver ghost. Inside the ship, Captain Minji Han walked quickly through the corridors toward the bridge. Her boots made soft sounds on the metal floor. She had been a military officer for 20 years, but today felt different. Today felt dangerous. "Captain on the bridge," announced Lieutenant Juno Park when she entered. He was young, maybe 25, with nervous energy that made him tap his fingers on his console. Minji looked at the main screen. Below them, 3 human colonies were burning. Orange and red flames covered the settlements. People were dying down there. Her people. "Report," she said, keeping her voice steady. "The Kroth attacked without warning," said Juno. "Their fleet has 47 warships. We're the only human ship in range. Reinforcements won't arrive for 6 hours. 6 hours. The colonies would be ashes by then." Chief Engineer Hyun Lee spoke from his station at the back of the bridge. He was older than the others, maybe 40, with gray starting to show in his hair. "Captain, the resurrection matrix is ready. If we take damage, the ship can rebuild itself. We can come back." Everyone on the bridge knew what that meant. The Lazarus had technology that no other ship possessed. If the enemy destroyed them completely, the ship would reconstruct itself atom by atom. The crew would die and be restored to life. It was humanity's greatest achievement and greatest controversy. The other alien races in the galaxy hated it. They said death should be final. They said bringing people back was against the natural order. The Galactic Council had tried to ban the Lazarus 3 times. But right now Minji didn't care what aliens thought. "Open a channel to all crew members," she ordered. When Juno nodded, she spoke clearly. "This is Captain Han. You all know what's happening. Our colonies are under attack. Our protocols say we should wait for backup. But our people are dying right now, this moment, while we wait. I'm not going to order you into a fight we might not survive. So I'm asking for a vote. Do we engage the enemy?" Silence filled the bridge for 3 seconds. Then the responses came flooding in. 847 crew members. 847 votes to fight. "All votes counted," said Juno quietly. "Unanimous, Captain." Minji felt something warm in her chest. Pride maybe. Or love for these people who chose to stand and fight. "Helm, bring us into weapons range. Tactical, prepare all weapons. Engineering, keep that resurrection matrix hot." The Lazarus moved forward. On the screen, the Kroth fleet turned toward them. 47 massive warships against 1 human vessel. "They're hailing us," said Juno. "Ignore it," Minji said. "Fire when ready." The Lazarus fired first. Energy beams and missiles streaked across space. 3 Kroth ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light. But then the return fire came. Dozens of weapons hit the Lazarus from every direction. The bridge shook violently. Sparks flew from broken consoles. Minji grabbed her chair to stay standing. She heard screaming from somewhere below. "Hull breaches on all decks," Hyun shouted over the alarms. "We're losing atmosphere. Reactor is critical. More impacts." The lights went out. Emergency red lighting came on. Minji tasted blood in her mouth. "It's been an honor," she heard Juno say. Then came the heat. The terrible, consuming heat as the reactor exploded. Minji felt her body burning, felt herself dying. The pain was incredible. Then nothing. Just black silence. Then light. Minji opened her eyes. She was standing on the bridge. The lights were on. The consoles worked perfectly. There was no damage anywhere. "Welcome back, Captain," said Hyun, standing at his station like nothing had happened. "Resurrection successful. All crew restored. All systems operational." Minji looked at the screen. The Kroth fleet hung motionless in space, their perfect formation broken. They were just floating there doing nothing. "They've never seen a ship come back before," she said slowly. Juno checked his console. "Captain, they look confused." "Actually confused." Minji smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "Good. Let's show them what happens when you attack humanity. Tactical, target their command ship. Fire at will." 6 hours had passed since the first resurrection. The USS Lazarus had died 4 more times. Each time, Captain Minji Han and her crew came back. Each time, the Kroth fleet fell apart a little more. Commander Doyen Choi sat at the tactical station, his fingers moving across the controls. He was younger than Minji, maybe 32, with sharp eyes that never stopped calculating. He had developed a new way of fighting that the crew called Phoenix Tactics. "Captain, I can position us near their supply ships," Doyen said calmly. "They'll destroy us, but when we resurrect, we'll be right in the middle of their formation. We can take out 6 ships before they react." Minji considered this. He was talking about deliberately getting killed. About using death as a strategy. Do it, she ordered. The Lazarus moved into position. The Croth fired everything they had. The ship exploded in a ball of fire. Minji felt the familiar sensation of dying. The heat. The pain. The nothing. For minutes later, she opened her eyes. The Lazarus had resurrected exactly where Doyen predicted, surrounded by enemy supply vessels. Fire, she said. 6 Croth ships exploded before the others could respond. Medical Officer Sujin Kwan worked in the medical bay, reviewing psychological reports. She was small and quiet, but everyone respected her. She had kind eyes that saw too much. Captain, we need to talk, Sujin said over the comm. The crew is handling the resurrections differently. Some are treating it like a game. Others are having serious problems. And Hyun has died 14 times now. That's more than anyone else. Minji found Hyun in the engineering section. He was running tests on the resurrection equipment. His movements seemed strange, too precise, like a machine pretending to be human. How do you feel? Minji asked. Hyun turned to look at her. His smile was wrong somehow. Each time I come back, something small changes. Tiny errors in the pattern. Nothing important. Just little things. What kind of things? Sometimes I remember conversations that never happened. Sometimes my hands move before I think about moving them. The ship's computer says I'm still within safe limits. He paused. But I know I'm different. Each death takes a piece of the original me and replaces it with something else. Minji felt cold. If it gets worse, tell me immediately. Of course, Captain. But she could see in his eyes that he wouldn't. He would keep dying for the ship until there was nothing left of the person he used to be. Outside, in the black of space, the Croth fleet was breaking. Ships fled in random directions. Some fought with desperate panic. Their perfect military discipline had shattered against an enemy that wouldn't stay dead. News traveled fast through the galaxy. Within days, every species knew about the USS Lazarus. The Galactic Council held emergency meetings. They declared the ship an abomination. They demanded humanity destroy it immediately. Humanity refused. The Croth offered a bounty so enormous that even peaceful merchant species considered trying to claim it. 1 trillion credits for the destruction of the Lazarus. Enough money to buy entire planets. Let them try, Minji told her crew. We're not stopping until our colonies are safe. Far across the battle zone, in a quiet chamber on a Croth warship, a philosopher named Thexer studied holographic recordings. He watched the Lazarus die and resurrect over and over. His warrior brothers wanted to destroy the ship with overwhelming force. But Thexer understood that brute strength wouldn't work. The humans had done something no species had ever done. They had turned death into a weapon. To defeat them, he needed to understand death better than they did. Thexer began researching human culture. He read their books, studied their religions, learned their myths. He found a story about a man named Lazarus who was raised from death by divine power. The humans had named their ship after him. Perhaps understanding their legends would show him their weakness. Back on the Lazarus, Minji stood on the bridge watching the stars. Somewhere out there, the Croth were planning their next move. Somewhere out there, the galaxy was learning to fear humanity. She touched the console gently. Keep us alive, Hyun, she whispered. Keep us all alive. 3 weeks had passed. The USS Lazarus had fought 15 battles. The Croth now ran away the moment they detected the ship. But victory had a price that nobody talked about. Hyun had died 19 times. More than anyone else on the ship. The changes were obvious now. Sometimes he would stare at nothing for long seconds. Other times he answered questions before people asked them, as if he could hear conversations from other timelines. Lieutenant Nari Song from navigation noticed something wrong with her hands. After her 8th death, they sometimes passed through solid objects for a split second. She tried to hide it, but Sujin saw everything. We need a meeting, Sujin told Captain Minji. This can't continue. The senior officers gathered in the briefing room. The ship's artificial intelligence, Oracle, appeared as a glowing blue sphere above the table. Crew degradation has reached dangerous levels, Oracle said in its calm voice. Additionally, our intelligence shows the Croth are building a new weapon. It's designed to corrupt our quantum patterns. If they succeed, resurrection will either fail completely or produce severely damaged results. Juno leaned forward, worry on his young face. What can we do? 2 options, Oracle replied. Stop using resurrection and fight normally. Or continue current tactics and risk catastrophic failure. The room went silent. Fighting normally meant they would die for real. But continuing meant they might come back as monsters. We vote, Minji said quietly. One by one the officers voted. Every single person chose to keep fighting. To keep using resurrection. To keep risking their humanity. That night, Minji couldn't sleep. She walked through the empty corridors until she found Hyun alone in the observation deck. He stood at the window looking at the stars. "I'm not really me anymore, am I?" Hyun asked without turning around. Minji didn't know what to say. "There's an old question," Hyun continued. "If you destroy something and rebuild it exactly, atom by atom, is it the same thing? Or is it just a copy?" He finally looked at her. His eyes were different. Older. Sadder. "I think I'm a copy now. Maybe I've been a copy since the second or third death. Maybe the real Hyun died a long time ago." "You're still my friend," Minji said. "Every version of you has saved this ship." Hyun smiled, but it was the saddest smile she had ever seen. "Promise me something. If I come back wrong, really wrong, you'll end it? Don't let me become a monster walking around in Hyun's body." Minji felt tears in her eyes. She nodded because she couldn't speak. Meanwhile, far away on a Kroth research station, Thexer had finished his studies. He finally understood what made the Lazarus so terrifying. The humans hadn't conquered death. They had enslaved it. They had taken the universe's one absolute certainty and turned it into a tool. Other species accepted death as natural. Humans looked at death and said no. They looked at the impossible and made it possible through sheer stubbornness. To defeat them, Thexer realized he needed to create something worse than death itself. He oversaw the final construction of the entropy shroud. It was a weapon that corrupted matter at the deepest level. It wouldn't just kill. It would make resurrection go wrong in horrible ways. Back on the Lazarus, Doyen detected unusual energy readings from a Kroth science vessel. "Captain, they're building something big," he reported. "Energy signature is off the charts." "What kind of weapon?" Minji asked. "Unknown. But I don't like it." Minji looked around her bridge at the crew who had died beside her so many times. Juno at his station. Doyen at tactical. Nari plotting courses with her flickering hands. All of them were breaking apart piece by piece. "Send a message to Earth," she ordered. "Tell them what we're facing. Tell them if we don't come back this time, it's been an honor." She didn't say the other part. The part she was thinking. That maybe death was finally catching up to them. That maybe they had pushed too far. That maybe the next resurrection would be their last. The entropy shroud activated like a dying star. The weapon's radiation hit the USS Lazarus in waves that felt wrong. Minji felt her body coming apart in ways that shouldn't be possible. The pain existed in places she didn't have. Colors that didn't exist burned her eyes. Then she died. When resurrection activated, Minji knew immediately something was terribly wrong. The bridge appeared around her, but the walls bent in impossible directions. She heard Sujin screaming from 3 places at once. Juno stood at his console, but his reflection in the screen showed a different person. "This isn't right," Doyen said, his voice echoing strangely. "Nothing is right." Hyun flickered at his engineering station like a bad hologram. Sometimes he had 2 heads. Sometimes none. His form shifted between different versions of himself, all existing at the same moment. "Corruption detected," Oracle's voice stuttered. "Resurrection status. Failed, successful, unknown, error, error, error." Through the twisted view screen, Minji could see the Kroth fleet watching. Waiting to see what horror they had created. Minji forced herself to think clearly despite the wrongness crawling through her mind. There was one option left. One terrible option that had never been tested. "All crew emergency protocol Omega," she announced, her voice barely steady. "We're initiating complete reset." The comm channels filled with gasps and shocked voices. Complete reset meant erasing everything. All the ship's accumulated data. All tactical improvements. All personal logs. The Lazarus would return to its original factory state. They would lose everything that made this version of the ship theirs. "You have 6 minutes to record final messages," Oracle said. "After reset, you will remember what happened, but you will technically be different versions of yourselves. The current iteration of the ship and crew will cease to exist." Minji ran through the corrupted corridors to engineering. Reality bent around her. She saw herself running past herself. Doors led to rooms that shouldn't exist. Hyun was there, more glitched than human. His body phased between solid and transparent. Parts of him existed in different times. "I'm not going into the resurrection field," Hyun said. His voice came from everywhere and nowhere. "I'm too corrupted, Captain. If my pattern gets locked into the reset, it might contaminate everyone else." "Hyun, no. We can find another way." "There is no other way." For just a moment he looked completely normal. Like the engineer who had first joined the crew. I've died 23 times. What's one more? But this time I'll make it count. Someone needs to stay outside and manually calibrate the reset. Someone needs to make sure it works perfectly. Minji's vision blurred with tears. You're a hero. I'm just an engineer. I fix problems. He turned back to his console, which was folding into shapes that hurt to look at. 5 minutes, Captain. You should record your message. Minji recorded her goodbye to herself. Throughout the ship, others did the same. Doyen recorded tactical data for his next version. Sujin recorded medical notes. Nari recorded navigation information. Everyone said farewell to who they were. In engineering, Hyun worked alone as the countdown reached 0. His corrupted hands moved across controls that were becoming impossible. The pain of existing was overwhelming, but he focused on the math. On the calibration. On making sure his friends would come back clean. With his last coherent thought, he locked the reset parameters into place. The USS Lazarus stopped existing. Reality paused. Then, perfect and pristine, the ship resurrected. Minji opened her eyes on a flawless bridge. Around her the crew stirred. They carried ghost memories of things that had technically never happened to these versions of themselves. They remembered Hyun, though the ship's official logs now showed he had simply been a standard crew member who died in action. Through the view screen the entropy shroud flickered and died. The Kroth weapon had been defeated by a strategy they never imagined. Total surrender of identity to achieve victory. Minji touched the engineering console with trembling fingers. Thank you, Hyun, she whispered. All versions of you. The ship sailed on through space, reborn and clean, carrying the memories of a man who died so they could live. 3 months after the reset, the war ended without a final battle. It ended with surrender. Entire Kroth battle groups refused to fight. Their admirals looked at the numbers and realized the truth. Fighting an enemy that used death as a weapon was impossible. Every battle drained morale. Every victory felt like defeat when the enemy simply came back. The USS Lazarus had become more than a ship. It had become a nightmare that spread through the Kroth Empire like a disease. Thexer, the Kroth philosopher, requested a meeting. Captain Minji Han traveled to a neutral station to meet him. She brought Juno and Doyen as escorts, though she doubted she needed protection. The Kroth were too afraid to try anything. The meeting room was designed for multiple alien species. Thexer was smaller than Minji expected. His shell was covered with symbols she couldn't read. His compound eyes reflected a dozen versions of her face. I spent months trying to understand how to defeat your ship, Thexer said through his translator device. The voice was mechanical but somehow sad. I built the entropy shroud. I studied your culture. I analyzed every battle. And I finally understand. Minji waited, saying nothing. We feared you because you refused death, Thexer continued. But that's wrong. You don't refuse death at all. You've made death your friend. Your ally. You've turned the final enemy into a weapon. That's why even death itself dreads your ship. You've done the impossible. We just refuse to lose, Minji said simply. Thexer's translator made a sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. That is the most terrifying thing any species has ever said. 2 weeks later, the Galactic Council announced their decision. The USS Lazarus was simultaneously declared a war crime and a guarantee of peace. Too terrible to allow. Too effective to ignore. The compromise was simple. Humanity could keep the Lazarus but would never build another resurrection ship. One was enough. One was more than enough. Minji accepted the terms without argument. She knew the truth. One Lazarus was all humanity needed. Now the ship patrols the border of human space. Pirates flee when their sensors detect it. Potential invaders remember the stories and choose different targets. The Lazarus doesn't need to fight anymore. His legend does the fighting. On the bridge, Minji stands her watch like always. Juno works his console with the same nervous energy. Doyen plans tactics for battles that will never happen. Sujin monitors crew health. Nari plots courses through space that has seen them die and return countless times. They all carry ghosts. Memories of Hyun and others who sacrificed everything. Memories of versions of themselves that no longer exist. The reset erased the data, but it couldn't erase what they felt. Sometimes Minji walks to engineering and swears she can feel Hyun's presence. The new engineer is competent and professional, but it's not the same. It will never be the same. In her ready room late at night, Minji records her final log entry. Not for the ship's official records. Just for herself. They say death comes for everyone eventually, she speaks quietly into the recorder. But we came for death first. And death blinked. She pauses, thinking about everything they've lost. Everything they've become. We paid a price for this victory. We gave up pieces of ourselves. Some of us gave up everything. But we saved our colonies. We protected our people. And we taught the galaxy a lesson they won't forget. Minji stops the recording and looks out at the stars through her window. The Lazarus moves silently through the void, a ghost ship crewed by people who have died too many times to count. Somewhere out there, species tell stories about the human ship that death fears. They warn their children about the vessel that comes back no matter how many times you destroy it. And on the bridge of that legendary ship, Captain Minji Han smiles. It's not a happy smile. It's the smile of someone who looked at the impossible and refused to accept it. The USS Lazarus sails on, and the galaxy gives it space. The end.